Can men and women be friends? In the past, if you asked me this question, I'd have given you an absolute and unequivocal yes, they absolutely can. And I'd go so far as to say that anyone who disagrees with me is just being super insecure or chauvinistic. As a man who has always deeply appreciated his female friends, this seemed obvious. But in truth, that's really just a seat of the pants response. It's my gut instinct. I've never really taken the time to do a proper investigation to see what the science says. So is it possible, or are the naysayers really just clinging to old-fashioned beliefs? Now guys, before you watch the rest of this video, if you think that men and women can be friends, go ahead and mash the like button right now. And if you don't think they can, please jump down to the comments and tell me why. The first thing I hadn't considered is that the widespread phenomenon of men and women actually being friends is very new to us as a culture. In 2002, an American demographics magazine study found that under 25s were 4 times more likely to have opposite gender friends than over 55s. In 2012, researcher April Ratchek also found that college students had way more opposite gender friends than their grandparents did in the earlier start of the century. So anthropologically speaking, maybe that makes sense. We as a culture just haven't had the time to work out what male and female friendships are supposed to look like and how they can function harmoniously. Now, if you think men and women can be friends, then you are in good company. A recent survey in the UK found that only between 5 to 9% of people thought it wasn't possible. And yet, if we look at the actual statistics, it would appear that male-female friendships usually are more than just friends. A recent study of over 300 students at Pennsylvania State University found that roughly half of those interviewed had engaged in some form of sexual activity with their platonic friends. Another large study from the University of Wisconsin, published in the Journal of Social and Personal, demonstrated that in the majority of friendships between different sexes, one, if not both parties, end up developing romantic or sexual interest. And this makes sense. If you look at Hollywood and social media, you almost never ever see a close, intimate, platonic male-female friendship that doesn't have sexual tension and doesn't eventually lead to a romantic connection. And if any of you have ever had female friends as a kid, you'll know that many adults like to make fun of us, calling us boyfriend and girlfriend. They think it's cute, but for our developing brains, that can be a very confusing experience. But the data also shows something else very interesting, which is that men appear to struggle a lot more than women when it comes to maintaining platonic mixed gender relationships. Another study at the University of Wisconsin discovered that men find their female friends more attractive on average than females find their male friends. The same study also discovered that men are more likely to misinterpret acts of friendship, acts of emotional intimacy from their female friends as being something romantic or sexual. On the flip side, female friends were less likely to interpret potential sexual cues or romantic interest from a male friend. And indeed, women widely report being more insecure if their partners have a female friend than men feel if their female partners have a male friend. So it would suggest that women are already consciously or subconsciously aware of the fact that men are worse at maintaining platonic relationships. And I suspect a lot of this has to do with an intimacy gap in men's lives. Men in general experience a lot less emotional support from their friends than women do. If you just have a look at this study from the UK, you'll see that women experience twice as much emotional support from their female friends as men do. They are likely to be told they are loved by a friend twice as often as a man, and they are 60% more likely to share personal feelings or problems with their friends. This represents a massive gap, an intimacy connection that men just aren't getting. Men usually only receive this level of intimacy from their romantic relationships. And so no wonder it becomes confusing for us when we suddenly experience this level of connection and emotional support from a woman that's supposed to be platonic. Because for us, the only time we've ever experienced that is when we're with someone romantically. So when you look at the actual numbers, I think it would be unrealistic to suggest that people who think that men and women can't be friends are being crazy or insecure. Statistically, if you're dating someone who has an opposite gendered friend, you'll have a better than even chance of that person having had a previous, present, or future potential romantic connection to that person. But this is also the reason that I'm always so wary of statistics. Because the numbers don't say that men and women can't be friends. They actually say that men and women in our current society haven't worked out how to do it consistently. I've also had the experience of going to a number of tantra, breathing, self-development events where I have rapidly built really deep, intimate connection with someone that I've never met before. And through a series of breathing, eye gazing, sharing of deep personal information about each other, I've witnessed firsthand how crazy it is to suddenly find myself wildly attracted to a woman that 8 hours earlier I had no interest in whatsoever. And I think this is an unavoidable fact. If you spend a lot of time around someone and get emotionally and intimately close to each other, even if it's platonic, you'll consistently run the risk of developing romantic or sexual feelings for that person, even if you've never experienced them in the past. In spite of this, I've always enjoyed close female friendships. I've appreciated them immensely, and I've never crossed that line into wanting more from them or having them want more from me. But I suspect I've also inadvertently had some very good quality boundaries that I've set with my female friends to ensure that this never happens. When I've attended events like Tantra with female friends in the past, we have specifically agreed to stay well away from each other, not to do any of the further deeper intimacy exercises because we didn't want to cross any boundaries and make things uncomfortable between us. And indeed, this is what the professionals are saying. Men and women can have great platonic friendships, but both parties need to be explicit in that fact to each other and implicit about that fact to themselves. They need to be honest and clear with each other and honest and clear with themselves for a platonic relationship between a man and woman to work in the long term. And perhaps unsurprisingly, most male-female friendships don't have this kind of high-quality boundary setting in place. And so, yes, I think that we are right to be cautious if the person we're dating is friends with someone of the same gender that we are. But cautious isn't the same as forbidding it or thinking that it's definitely wrong. We have to learn to trust our guts. We have to watch these people together, see them acting together as friends. If your gut is telling you that something is wrong, then your gut is probably right and you should investigate further. Lastly, I want to say this. I think that men should have close platonic female friendships. They will help make you a more balanced man. They will give you emotional support you can't get anywhere else. And they'll also give you really incredible dating advice. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. If you like this video and you like my previous ones as well, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to seeing all of you in my future videos.